Come, guys, come, listen to this masterpiece. Listen, are you ready?
All you gotta know is I'm kicking your ass.
Hey guys, welcome to the new video. My name is Igor and you're watching 3D Inovacija. So I'm talking to you from very sunny Croatia, so please ignore my sweat and red face. It's so hot. I pozdrav mojim gledateljima s Balkana. Počeo sam vas viđati u komentarima. Lijepo. So today we're doing Hellboy. And I know what you're thinking. Oh my god, this model looks so amazing. I can't wait to watch the whole video and make my own. I know. I got you. But wait, there's more. Come. First, we're gonna add sound module to the model. You will be able to upload any song, quote, line, whatever you want, and turn it on by pressing the button. You can do this on pretty much every model you have if the base is big enough to put the battery in. Cool, right? I will show you how to do it, and in the description I will put links to all the materials you will need to do it yourself. It's pretty simple, and at the end a little bit of sanding, some gluing, and you're done. You will have a very unique model. And the second part will be our usual step-by-step painting process. So probably wondering, why is this model already primed? Why is the sound module already installed? Why does it look so amazing? Well, I just needed a hook to stop you from clicking away from the video. Don't worry, we're gonna go back. I'm gonna show you everything from the start. We're also gonna make this amazing crown and the flaming sword from clear resin. So this model was made by EH Studios, and you can find a link to their Patreon page in the description below. Check them out. So these are the colors I used on the model. This is everything you need to follow along with the video. But if you don't have these exact colors, as I said before, it really doesn't matter. If you have scarlet red instead of the bloody red, nobody cares. It's gonna look amazing at the end either way. So don't worry, it's gonna be okay. Also, I don't know if I said this, you can find a list of all these colors in the community posts of the channel. So you can just go there and copy and paste them. You don't need to pause the video, just go there. By the way, did you know that the first Hellboy movie was released like 20 years ago? Psst. I'm getting old. But that's why we do this, to relive our childhood memories. So this video is gonna be a bit longer. There are gonna be two chapters. The first is gonna be printing and adding the sand module, and the second chapter is gonna be the painting process. So if you don't wanna add the sound module, you can just skip to the painting process, but you should. It's really cool.
All you gotta know is I'm kicking your ass.
Huh? Right, I know you wanna edit. Come, let's start. Okay, let's start with something interesting. First, we're gonna print and process the sword and a crown. These are the only two parts made of clear resin. In the end, we want them to be very shiny and glass-like, so we're gonna print them solid. Don't hollow them out. You need to clean them in a fresh IPA. Don't use some dirty IPA that you have because it can stain the clear resin. Also, don't leave them in IPA for too long. It can cause yellowing. 2 minutes is enough, just shake them around in IPA to clean them good. After washing, get some hot water and dunk them in. This will loosen up the supports and you will be able to remove them much easily, and the support marks will be minimal. After removing supports, wash the models again for around 2 minutes. Now leave them to dry or use something for quick drying, like I do with this food dehydrator. Of course, we don't want to waste perfectly fine IPA, so I'm just gonna add it to my wash buckets for a reuse later. Before curing, clean up any supports, if there are any left, because the resin is now much softer and it's much easier to remove it. When curing, don't do it for more than 3 minutes, because it can cause yellowing of the clear resin. After curing, we're gonna sand it. The better you sand it, the more shiny and clear it will look, so give yourself some effort here. Now take some of that clear resin that you used to print and brush it over the flames and the crown. Don't do it over the sword and hand, because only the flames will be clear at the end. Put on a thick layer. If you go too thin, there's a chance that the brush strokes will be visible later. It's better to go thick and then lean the sword on a stand so the extra resin falls down. This will give us smooth surface with no brush marks and no extra resin sitting on a model. Do the same thing for the crown and leave them like that for a few hours until all the extra resin slides down from the models. At the end, we're gonna cure it again. Don't go for more than 3 minutes, because as I said, it can cause yellowing. And this is what we get at the end. You can see a comparison here before and after applying that clear coat of resin with a brush. You will also notice that even after curing, the model is still sticky. That's normal. I tested it, and even if you cure it for 15 minutes, they will still feel sticky. We're gonna get rid of that stickiness later with some gloss varnish. Now for the rest of the parts that aren't clear. You already know the procedure. I'm gonna remove my wet with clear resin and put the one with the gray. It would be better to have 2 printers, but what can you do? We're gonna do the best with what we have. When I'm changing wets, I always clean the LCD screen using these dust remove stickers. There's always some dust or particles on it, so I use the chance to just clean it up. And you already know this part, so let's just quickly go through it. We print them, we dunk them in hot water to remove supports, and then we wash them. If you have some small drain holes and you're not sure that the IPA reached all the parts inside of the hull of the model, use a syringe to flush it out from the inside, like I'm doing it here now. After drying, cure them from the outside and inside. Stick some small UV LEDs inside to make sure there is no uncured resin left. By the way, I'm running a bit low on this Anycubic ABS like Pro 2 resin. I've used like 30 kilos of it, so I know it pretty well, including all the positives and some quirks that I run into. I'm thinking of trying something new and comparing it to it. So what do you think? I thought about getting Yayo ABS like resin, which is actually just Sunwall with a different sticker. I can print the same figures with both and compare the details and the strength of the resin. So let me know in the comments if you are interested in seeing that. Okay, that's it for the printing part. Let's move on to the main topic. As you can see here, the base of the model was printed with a split. I don't really know why. Mysteries of the resin printing, I guess. Probably the supports were too weak in this part, but it doesn't matter. The split is so clean, it actually fits better than some parts that were printed separately on purpose, and it goes perfectly with what we're gonna do. We're gonna split it completely apart and then add a sound module with a speaker inside of the base. You can do this with any model you have, it doesn't need to be this one, as long as you have enough space to fit inside all the components you're gonna see here. If you weren't lucky enough to get the printing error like I did, you can split the model open with a drill or some other tool. Doesn't really matter, just as long as you can get inside. We'll fix everything later with milliput and it will look like it was never touched. Okay, so first I'm gonna force it to split it apart completely. And these inner supports make it a bit tough, but I got this. Get some wire cutters, precision knife and clean up inside. We need these inner supports during the printing, but now we don't need them anymore. Now for the sound module. I will add the links to all the parts you're gonna see here in the description below, so you will be able to make it yourself if you want to. First thing you're gonna need is the actual sound module. It's really simple, there's an on and off switch, leave it on all the time. 2 wires that we're gonna connect to the power supply. There's already a connected button that we will use to start and stop the music. And the speaker, the one that comes with the sound module, is actually pretty decent and loud. But if you want, you can cut it off and replace it with another one. There's a micro USB on the board that we will use to transfer the music, and a small potentiometer to adjust the volume. Just turn it up all the way and leave it there. You get everything you see here, including the micro USB, for around 15 euros I think on the Amazon. Next thing you're gonna need is a simple case for 3.7 volt lithium battery. I found 2 types. The first type already has wires hooked up, so you just connect red to the red and black to the black on the sound module and you're done. The other type, which I actually prefer, has these little wings on the side. This will make it easier to fit the case inside of the model, and we will just need to connect the wires ourselves to the case. Of course, the last part is the battery. It has to be 3.7 volt lithium battery. Don't use anything stronger or you could fry the board. I'm gonna use this second case for the battery because it will be easier to fit it in the model. Place it where you want it to be and mark how big of the hole needs to be. The wings of the case will stay on the outside, so the whole thing won't fall inside of the model. After marking it, I was gonna cut it with the pliers, but yeah, don't use wire cutters, it's not gonna end well. This is easy to fix, so don't worry, but let's switch gears. I'm gonna move myself outside of the house because I'm gonna make a lot of dust, and use this little angle grinder to just cut the case and make a hole. Check that the case fits into the hole. You can also sand the edges so the wings sit flat with the model, but I printed the base a bit too thin, so I didn't want to remove too much material. Alright, now that we made a hole for the case, let's make some space for the speaker. Find a spot on the model where it won't be too visible. You can get this kind of rotary tool in pretty much any tool shop, just make a hole where you think it will look good. I put a little dust extractor underneath to catch anything that falls. I think this is actually used for nails, but it's very useful when drilling or sanding the resin to catch anything that flies off. Now we're gonna connect the wires, and first we're gonna add them to the battery case. Grab some 2 wires that you have lying around, the color doesn't matter, it's just for you to know what connects to what. Strip the end of the wires and twist them. On the bottom of the battery case you will see these little wings. You need to lift them up, slide the wire underneath and press the wings back down to hold it in place. Repeat this for the other wire. At the end you can wrap everything with electrical tape so nothing moves around. Before connecting the case to the sound module, let's add music to it. Connect the micro USB cable to the module and plug the other end to the PC. It works like any USB drive. You will get a pop-up drive on your PC and you have 8 MB of space. You can drop any MP3 file. It can be a movie line, anime intro, whatever you want. Just try to find some clean audio without background noise. Once you transfer it, you can unplug it from PC. That's it. You will also need to make a hole for the button. Pick a nice spot and make a hole big enough for the button to pass through, but small enough for the base plate of the button to stay inside of the base. This way we can glue it easy. Now that all the holes are ready and the music is loaded, we can connect the power. Strip the wires coming from the sound module. As I said, the color of the wires doesn't matter, but connect the one from the plus side of the battery case to the red wire and the one from the minus side of the battery case to the black wire on the sound module. The easiest way to make a secure connection is to use this heat shrinking tubing. Slide it over the connection, use a lighter for a second and it will shrink and hold everything in place. There is also this small screw that I mentioned that controls the volume. Just turn it all the way up and leave it there. That's it, put the battery into the case and you're good to go.
All you gotta know is I'm kicking your ass. All you gotta know is I'm kicking your ass.
Now to make speaker hole look a bit better, I'm gonna cut a piece of speaker cloth. This won't block the sound and it will look much cleaner. Just cut a small piece, add some super glue around the edges of the hole and press the mesh into the glue. Once it hardens, use clippers or some hobby knife to trim all the excess cloth. You can also use a lighter to clean the edges of the fabric, but be very careful. Yeah, I had to put another piece on top of it to fix the burn hole. Use superglue to attach the speaker inside of the base. It doesn't need to be directly behind the hole, just glue it somewhere close by. Same thing for the button. Fit it into the hole from inside of the case. Just make sure that no glue gets into the button mechanism, because you will not be able to press it anymore. But you can put the glue on the motherboard, it doesn't matter. If you want to go a step further, you can also glue the sound module inside of the base and make a hole for the micro USB. This way you will be able to easily get to the micro USB and change the songs when you want to. I don't want to bother with that, I'm fine with just popping out the battery case and get to the sound module like that if I need to. Place all the components inside of the base and glue the two halves back together. After it dries, use super glue in the corners to just hold the battery case in place. And that's it, nice and easy, right? Now we have a really custom made and unique model. If you want the cover to sit flush with the base, you could have tint the edges a little bit like I showed you earlier, or you can add a bit of milliput in the corners of the base and make it rise up to the same level. Now we're gonna use milliput to fill up any holes in the model. Make sure to also smooth it a little bit around the buttonhole, so only the button itself is sticking out. Check the other parts of the model for any visible gaps that needs to be filled. Once the milliput dries, sand it smooth. And don't forget to dry fit all the parts. You don't want to paint everything and then realize later that some parts don't fit and need sanding. Use any extra drain hose to insert sticks for painting. For the parts without the hose, you can use these alligator clips and just use zip tie at the top to keep everything from moving. The last thing you want to do is to cover the button with some tape or plastic putty. This way paint doesn't get into recesses around the button and stop it from working. Oof, that's it. We're finally ready to start the painting part of this tutorial. So let's first paint the clear resin. For the sword, use plastic putty or masking tape to protect everything except the flames. For the crown, protect that little connector piece that attaches to the head. We want that part to stay clear so it's not visible. It will look like the crown is floating in the air. To paint these parts, you will need alcohol inks. Yellow, orange, red and black. Doesn't matter which brand, in my experience they all work pretty much the same. When painting clear resin, always go from lighter to darker. If you spray it red first and then try yellow on top, it won't show up. Once you go dark, you cannot go lighter anymore. So start with a yellow and cover the whole sword and the crown. Next, take some orange and spray it on the raised areas. Don't spray it into the crevices, let the yellow stay there. Then use red and apply it only on the top of the flames. And for the last touch, take black and lightly spray it on the very tippity top of the flames. After it dries, spray gloss varnish over the flames and the crown. Do it in 2 layers, let the first one dry and then do it again. This will remove any stickiness that was left and make the part look shiny and glass-like. For the rest of the parts, we are going to prime them black using Vallejo Black Primer. Once the base dries, flip it over and prime the bottom too. It will look better with the black battery case underneath. For the sword, we need to protect the flames using plastic putty and prime the rest of it. There are 2 options for the blade. You can leave the entire blade transparent so it looks like fire is on both sides, or you can prime the bottom part. I'm going to prime the bottom part because I think it will look better. Leave all the primed parts to dry for a few hours before moving on. Now we can start to paint. Start with bloody red as the base tone for all the body parts. That includes the stone hand and the horns. Also, don't forget the fingers on the hand holding the sword. I forgot about them, so I had to go back and do them later. Next, take some Berserker Bloodshed and put it over all the parts. This will tint them slightly and settle into all the pores. Then take Hot Orange, tint it down, lower the airbrush pressure and spray it over the raised parts like muscles, cheekbones, top of the head, abs. Avoid darker spots and crevices. So Spray it inside of the horns too. That side faces the fire crown, so it should look like it's glowing. Now grab some sunny yellow, thin it down even more than the orange, and apply it on the very tops of the muscles, in a tighter area than when you spray the orange. What we are doing is going from darker to lighter as parts are raising, giving them more dimension. Take Flash Tearers Red and give everything a light overspray, just enough to tie all the shades together. Don't cover the undertones, move the airbrush a little further from the model and just spray a little bit. Now use Berserker Bloodshed again and go into all the crevices. Think muscle separation, eye sockets, between the abs. Try to be as much precise as possible. After that, grab some dark tone and do the same thing. Focus only on the darkest shadows, like under the arms, bottom of the tail, armpits, all the places that would naturally be in the shadow. This will add a lot of depth and make every muscle pop out. Now let's bring back some highlights. Use Vallejo Yellow Wash and lightly go over the tops of the muscles and other raised areas where light would naturally hit. Be subtle, you still want undertones to show through. For the chest hair, use Vallejo Black Ink, go lightly and slowly with low pressure. As soon as the hair catches color, stop and move on. You want the skin underneath to still stay somewhat red and not turn completely black. After it dries, do the same thing with Vallejo Red Wash, and this will settle between the hairs and give the skin that reddish tone again. Now I'm making wash medium, mixing ice yellow, hot orange, wash medium and a lot of water. Make it really thin and spray it over the tops of the muscles. After you spray it, leave it for a few seconds and then use cotton pad and tap it off. We are not trying to color these areas, we just want to shade them a little bit and create a glowing effect like fire is lighting them up. Alright, switching over to the trousers. Start with Talassar Bull and spray it all over the pants. Do 2 or 3 layers to get the solid coverage. Now take Bright Sapphire from Warpaint's Fanatic, thin it a bit and spray it over the trousers. This combo will give us a good base to work with. Now we can start adding shadows and highlights to make them look more dimensional. Start with Darkenhof Nightshade and spray it in all the areas you want to be darker, like the bottom, around the bags, around the pockets and belts. You don't need to be particularly precise with this, general area is enough. Next, grab some dark tone and go in more precisely. Spray it closer to the belts, bottom of the trousers, and in all the creases and folds. Once the shadows are done, let's bring back some highlights. Mix Bright Sapphire with Wash Medium and water. I do 3 drops of Sapphire, 7 drops of Wash Medium and 10 drops of water. Spray it over the raised areas so that there is a clear difference between highlights and the shadows. Try fitting the paints to the upper body now. For example, when I did it the first time, the paints looked a bit too bright next to the red upper body. So I took Darkenhof Nightshade again and gave it a light spray all over from a bit of a distance. This darkens it slightly but keeps the contrast between highlights and shadows. To finish up, use Blue Tone Wash from Warpaint's Fanatic and spray it over everything. This ties all the shades together and makes it look like unified surface. Moving on, time to paint the boots and the gun holster. Start with Fur Brown as the base layer and spray it over everything. Once that dries, spray Strong Tone Wash over it, and this combo will make it look like leather. To add more depth, use Egrex Earthshade and apply it to the darker areas like crevices, the soles of the shoes, backside, around the belt. Don't worry about being too precise here. Same thing goes for the gun holster, backside, near the belt, all the similar places. Next we're gonna use Cygor Brown, but we're gonna do it more precisely in the darkest areas. Lower your compressor pressure, get close with the airbrush and be careful.
Holding on to ghosts and fading blooms. If I could find a way to make you stay, would you be here or would you drift away?
Now let's paint the base. Start with Guilliman Flash. Since it's a contrast paint, it will naturally settle between the blades of grass and give the ground a nice brownish tone. After that I'm gonna use Orc Skin Speed Paint and cover the whole base. Now we just wanna add different shades on the grass and the ground. It doesn't matter exactly which colors, just make it look natural. I'm gonna start with Angel Green and spray it randomly around the base. Then I'm gonna take Desert Yellow and also spray it in different spots.
Lost in shifting sands. Can you tell me where it all went wrong?
Now the Tree Ancient, go a little heavier with this one, especially on the sides of the base. You probably see the pattern by now. After we build up our layers, we usually add shade to tie it all together. Here I'm gonna use Build 10 Green and spray it all over the base. Do it lightly, don't cover the undertones, this will just help everything pop out more. Now take Dark Tone and carefully spray it into all the crevices and deeper areas.
Tearing through the pieces of what we were. If you could see the scars we've left apart.
On the sides, where there is more moss than grass, use Dirty Grey. That's it for the base. Now let's paint the tentacles. We want them to stand out, but still look like part of the environment. So I'm gonna start with Orc Skin Speed Paint and spray it on the outside of the tentacles only. Fit each tentacle into the base just to see how they're positioned. Then use Goblin Green and spray the top facing side of each one as a highlight. You can also use Dark Green and carefully spray it into all the crevices to add more dimension. For the bottom part of the tentacles, use Warlord Purple. If you get a little overspray onto the green, don't worry, it will actually look good. Use Muled Berry in a few random places to add variation and richness. That's it. Now for the skeleton. As you can see, he still has some meat on those bones, so we want it to look like he's decomposing. Start with Agate Skin as a base, spray it all over, and leave some spots darker and other spots lighter. Don't aim for the full coverage. Now take some Dirty Grey and spray it on the areas where the moss is growing. Now use Nocturnal Red and add it to the parts that should be darker and red, like inside of the mouth, around the centipede. After that, take Cygor Brown and add it in all the deeper areas, like under the arms, inside of the eye sockets, inside of the mouth, between the ribs. Let it dry full and then spray Skeleton Horde over the whole skeleton.
I see you in the corners of my dreams, but you're fading like the sunset in the rain.
Next, grab Dark Tone again and carefully apply it in the darkest areas. Try to be accurate, think underarms, holes in the chest, the backside, between the ribs. And now we're gonna add highlights that would come from Hellboy's Flaming Sword and Crown. Mix Wash Medium with Brain Matter Beige and spray it on the top areas where the light would hit, like the top of the head, face and chest. After that, grab Dirty Grey again and go back over all the moss areas. This contrast helps the skeleton stand out more from the darker tones. Then add Red Wash to the same areas where we put the highlight mix earlier. This will help the red glow up more. Once you think you're done, place the skeleton in the base. Take Dark Green and spray where the base and skeleton meet to blend them together. Do the same thing with the dirty gray. This makes everything feel like one connected scene instead of a figure placed on top of it. This is it for the base. Now let's move on to the sword. Use dark gunmetal metallic paint and spray the whole sword. Make sure to protect the flames and fingers if you painted the skin tones. There's just one more thing we can do with the airbrush before switching to the wet palette. If you have them, take some fluorescent colors, mix red and orange, and then spray them on the areas that would naturally catch reflection from the fire sword and the crown. Like inside of the horns, top of the head, shoulders, neck, and even a little bit on the skeleton. That's it for the airbrush. Let's switch over to the wet palette. Let's start from the bottom and work our way up. First, we're gonna finish up the base. Grab some Tree Ancient and use it for the mushroom stalk. Then take Bloody Red and paint the mushroom cap. By the way, did you notice my new black mat? I got it for you guys. Well, technically I got it for myself, but it's because of you. Now there's a better contrast between what I paint and the background, so you can see everything more clearly. Okay, let's continue. After red dries, use red tone wash and go over top of the mushroom again. It's going to make it pop out a bit more. For the rest of the base, we're gonna start with dirty gray. Paint the taller grass patches, especially in the areas where there's more yellow nearby. Also use dark green for the patches where the surrounding grass is greener. You can also add some highlights using green skin. Just gently go over some blades of grass to give them more depth. And what's a mushroom without white spots? Use some whitish color like Brain Matter Beige and just add white spots. Let's also finish up the skeleton. Use dark tone and carefully apply it in all the places where shadows should be. Between the ribs, around the muscles, inside the eye sockets, and especially inside that big wound where there are maggots inside. Take some pure red and paint the centipede. You can use different color if you want, but red gives it a strong contrast against the darker skeleton. Use Vallejo black paint to paint all the maggots you see on the skeleton. And that's pretty much it. There's not much to do on the tentacles. Just use Pixie Pink to highlight the edges of the suction cups. Go around the rims, and this will make them pop out and give them more lively look. On the top side of the tentacles you will see some scars. You can leave them as they are, or if you want them to be more visible, take some dark red tone and drop it carefully inside the scar lines. Also grab a bit of dark tone and randomly add it to some recessed areas, especially on the bottom side where the light wouldn't shine too much. Now for the boots, we just need to paint the hooves. Are these hooves? I think they are. Use charcoal and paint over them completely. Then we're gonna use ash gray and dry brush it. Wipe most of the paint onto the paper towel until almost nothing else comes off. After that, dry brush over the hooves. The edges will catch the paint and give it a very nice look. Use Cygor Brown for all the belts on the boots and also for the heel part that looks a bit different from the rest. Now use silver on all the buckles you see and for that plate at the top of the boots. To make it pop out even more, use gold color for the bolts on that plate. Now onto the trousers, use Cygor Brown again on all the belts and also around that leather part that wraps around the tail. For the small pouches around the waist, start with fur brown. Once it dries, go over it with strong tone wash, leave it to dry and then go over it again with umber wash. This combo will give it that worn leather look. Now take dark tone and add it to all the creases and folds on the bags to bring out the depth. Use silver for the inner ring of the belt buckle and for all the other small buckles on the pants and bags. I'm using gemstone red metallic paint for the very center ring of the belt buckle. Now we're gonna finish it off with some dark tone around the seams, under the belts, around the pockets and in those tiny holes you see on the trousers. Just poke a bit of dark tone into each hole, it will make them look deeper and add more dimension. Same idea is for the gun holster. Use Cygor Brown for the belts and also add it in that gap between the gun and the holster to give the illusion of depth. There are also two straps on the holster that don't look like leather to me, so I will paint them a bit differently. Start with a deck 10 and then add skeleton horde on top. After that dries, finish it with a bit of dark tone. Also use silver again for all the buckles and metal bits. Now let's do the gun inside of the holster. Use dark gunmetal for the top part of the gun and the handle. After that, give it a quick pass with dark tone to add some shadows and grime.
Holding on to echoes of a life that we both know is hanging by a thread.
Then just take a bit of black color and touch the chamber hole of the gun. It makes it look like an actual opening. There's not much to do on the torso, so we're gonna finish this one quickly. For the chain use silver color, and for the cross hanging from it use gold.
Sustain. Can you tell me where it all went wrong? We used to dance to
After it dries, go over both of it with Noun oil. This one will settle into the crevices and give them more definition and contrast. For the bracelet on the hand, just paint it black. Be careful not to get black on the red skin. There's also a small cross on that bracelet, so you can paint it with gold. There's one more thing I wanna do on the torso. I wanna make the veins pop out a bit more. You can see them running across the body. Take some blue tone wash and gently apply it over the veins. Then take a soft pad or cotton swab and top it off. We don't wanna paint the veins completely, just thin them a little bit so they stand out more. This stone hand is pretty interesting and I had a good idea what I wanna do with it. First I'm gonna spray it with gloss varnish and let it dry completely. Once it dries, I'm gonna mix orange and red fluorescent colors and drip them into all the crevices on the hand. The gloss varnish will help the paint flow nicely into the cracks and fill them evenly. If you mess up, no worries, since it's varnished, you can just take cotton swab, fill it with water and clean off any paint that goes out of the line. Do this all over the hand and it will look like there's lava inside or something. You can also add a little bit of hot orange by dry brushing in the random spots. And since we already have dry brush out, let's grab a bit of charcoal and dry brush outside of the horns. This will make the inside orange glow pop out even more. Also, don't forget to dry brush that little piece of horn that's attached to the head. After you're done, feed the horns in and check if the flow of the colors look natural. Okay, let's go and finish up the sword now. Use tiny tin metallic paint for the handle and black color for the glove. There are also small decorations around the knuckles, so I'm gonna paint those silver. And the fingers are very close together, so I'm gonna take a bit of charcoal and lightly pull a thin line between them. This will help to separate them visually and it will make the hand look like a hand and not like some red blob. Also, we're gonna use black for the fingernails. Let's do the head now. We're gonna start with the eyes. First, we're gonna paint the inside of the eyes with some whitish color, like Brain Matter beige. Once it dries, we're gonna use some yellow over the top. This first yellow of white color helped the yellow pop up more. For the iris, use Cygor Brown and just make a little dot in the middle of the eye. Let the top part go under the eyelid and keep the bottom part rounded. These eyes are very small, so doing pupils and iris doesn't make much sense. We will make too much of a mess. Single dot is more than enough. We already have a good base for the lips. All we need is a bit of neon oil. Just apply it over the lips. It will keep everything in the same tone, but it will help define the shape. For the hair, use black. Paint the beard, sideburns and everything with it. When you're painting hair, pull the brush from the skin into the hair. Don't try to make some hard, perfect line that always ends up looking fake. Same thing for the beard and the sideburns. Once it dries, use deep gray and dry brush the hair. This will give it more texture and bring it to life. Finish it off with neon oil. It will keep the highlights from dry brushing visible, but it will soften them and they will not look very chalky. There's also a small ribbon in the hair. I just used charcoal for that one. After everything dries, mix red and orange fluorescent paints and lightly spray it on the hair and top of the head. This will give a glow effect coming from a flaming crown on the head. You can also add a little bit at the top of the glove that's holding the sword. If you want it to pop out even more, just use fluorescent orange at the very top of the head, right under the flaming crown. And here is how it looks. One head has no horns and one head has horns and a flaming crown. This is it. We're gonna finish it with a mix of matte and satin varnish, 3:1, so 3 drops of matte and 1 drops of satin, and spray it over all the parts except the flames and the flaming crown. You need to protect those with a plastic putty or a masking tape because we already did those with gloss varnish. Once the varnish is dry, grab a little bit of gloss varnish with a brush and just add it to the eyes to make them look wet and alive. Okay, that's it. We made it through. It was a long video, but it was an even longer project. I wanted to share with you pretty much everything so you can easily reproduce it. So let's check out the final result. Roll it.
I won't stop until you're down in your grave with a couple of your friends to keep you company. At the moment's notice, I'll be swinging the blade, saying, "Look at this beautiful mess I made." When the enemy is at your door, you better hold that line. When you find out what they're looking for, you better roll the dice. I was raised in the shadows, nothing else even matters. Yeah. When the enemy is at your door, you better hold that line.
That's it. If you made it all the way through the video, thank you and congratulations. If you use this video as a guide or found inspiration for some of your own projects, feel free to share them with me. I would love to see what you created and feature it in my future videos. If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please leave me a like, subscribe and share it with someone who might enjoy it as well. Let me know in the comments what you think or what would you like to see in the upcoming videos. Also, check the community tab for a full list of all the colors used in this project. Thank you again for watching and keep creating. Bye!
All you gotta know is I'm kicking your ass.